Good morning and happy Thanksgiving. I wanted to take a few minutes with you today to talk about Oliver Twist and maybe give you some tips for reading. One thing I'd like to point out with Dickens, when a chapter ends, oftentimes he points you in the direction of the coming chapter. So when we finished chapter 2 on Wednesday, what we saw was that Oliver had made his famous statement, "Please, sir, I want some more." The parish officers had sort of gone crazy, and they had offered £5 to anybody who would take him on as an apprentice. So this apprenticeship system was a way for young people to be trained in trades and professions in those days. And ideally, it was a good thing. It was a way that you could learn a skill and move into a profession and get a livelihood and all those sorts of things. But in practice, it was often abused. And the abuse came because the master, meaning the skilled worker who was teaching the apprentice, had tremendous authority over the apprentice and could abuse them without any particular consequence. And so oftentimes a master would take on an apprentice, work them nearly to death, and not feed them well. In fact, many of the conditions of the poorhouse occurred in apprenticeship. So it's not necessarily a great thing that Oliver is going to be put out to be an apprentice. But we can speculate that it's very likely that the next chapter, chapter 3, is going to deal with the question of his being made an apprentice. And in fact, that's the case, as you know, if you started reading. So the chapter begins with a fairly brief description, a page or page and a half description of Oliver's new life since he has committed this great outrage. And it's almost like now he is in a prison. He's almost like a prisoner. But then the scene shifts a bit, and there's the arrival of this chimney sweep, meaning a person who makes his living by cleaning chimneys for people. Because back then there'd be all kinds of soot and ash in the chimneys, and they had to be cleaned. And if they weren't, it could be a fire hazard. Well, what chimney sweeps would often do is they get young boys, because they're very small, they can climb up in the chimney. And so the chimney sweep arrives, and I'd like to just read a little scene on page 14 when he arrives, and we'll get a sense of what sort of man this is and how he might end up treating Oliver if Oliver becomes his apprentice. It's at the top of the page. His name is Mr. Gamfield, and he's just arrived. "This here boy, sir, what the parish wants to prentice," said Mr. Gamfield. "Aye, my man," said the gentleman in the white waistcoat with a condescending smile. "What of him?" "If the parish would like him to learn a right pleasant trade and a good spectable chimbley sweeping business," said Mr. Gamfield, "I wants apprenticed, and I'm ready to take him." "Walk in," said the gentleman in the white waistcoat. Mr. Gamfield, having lingered behind to give the donkey another blow on the head and another wrench of the jaw as a caution not to run away in his absence, followed the gentleman with the white waistcoat into the room where Oliver had first seen him. Now, right there, we know that this person is not going to be a good person to have Oliver under his care, because if he treats the donkey this way, he's very likely going to treat Oliver this way too. "It's a nasty trade," said Mr. Limbkins when Gamfield had again stated his wish. "Young boys have been smothered in chimneys before now," said another gentleman. "That's a cause they damped the straw afore they lit it in the chimbley to make 'em come down again," said Gamfield. "That's all smoke and no blaze. Whereas smoke ain't no use at all making a boy come down, for it only sends him to sleep, and that's what he likes. Boys is wery obstinate and wery lazy, gentlemen, and there's nothing like a good hot blaze to make 'em come down with a run. It's humane too, gentlemen, because if they stuck in the chimbley, roasting their feet makes 'em struggle to extricate themselves." Okay, so this is a bit comic, but also a bit sad and disgraceful. Basically, again, he's talking in dialect. I need to remember that. And he's basically saying that when the boys get stuck in the chimney, the only thing that can get them out is to build a fire. And he's saying that if you don't build the fire right, if the straw is too smoky, the child might die. But if the fire burns properly, the child will get himself out of the chimney to save himself. And what's kind of amazing about this scene is how this horrific practice is being discussed as if it's just kind of a general business practice that anybody would do in their business. And so the outrageousness of it is emphasized. So from this scene, you would think that maybe the parish officer would say, "Well, absolutely, we don't want this man taking Oliver." And at first, that's what they seem to be saying, but it turns out that really they just want to negotiate the price that they would have to pay him. They don't want to pay the £5; they want to pay £3. So there's a negotiation. They get the price down, and off Oliver goes to the magistrate, where the apprenticeship papers will be signed. It's an official document, needs to be signed, and so on. So as you read on, I'd like you to take a look at what is it. There's a lucky event, this pure chance that happens that saves Oliver from being made an apprentice with the chimney sweep, which almost certainly would have ended this book after only a few chapters. So please enjoy your Thanksgiving. Oliver Twist is a great companion for Thanksgiving. I hope you'll do some reading before you eat. I'd also recommend maybe reading a couple of chapters to your guest during Thanksgiving dinner. There's nothing that delights guests at a Thanksgiving dinner more than to be able to talk about Oliver Twist and have a couple of chapters read to them. It's a great aid to digestion, and so I'd highly recommend that you do that. And of course, afterwards, you'll probably want to read some more too. So enjoy your day. Happy Thanksgiving to all, and we'll see you on Monday. Goodbye.